Hi, welcome to Hammer the Backlog. My name is Mick, and now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped and turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became a man with too many Warhammer miniatures. The year was 1998 and young Mick was fresh off completing Final Fantasy VII on the Sony Playing Station. There I was, looking for something new to play, when good friend and perennial arch nemesis of Hammer the Backlog, Dr. Coach Jim, appeared with a fresh copy of Warhammer Dark Omen. Now, young Mick had heard of Warhammer before, and had even lusted after the Hero Quest box set in the Argos catalogue. But this game was his first real introduction to the Warhammer world, and I was flippin' hooked, let me tell you that for nothing. So after a couple of box sets, some elves, a box of Chaos Warriors, and one or two metal models, I decided it was time to pick a side and choose an army to play. And since I'd loved the Dark Omen games and Morgan Bernhardt's Mercenaries so much, what better army than the brand new, at the time, Dogs of War? So in this video I'm going to tell you the story of how I collected, neglected and reconnected with my dream childhood army, and show you some of the tools, paints and other products that I used to revive it. This video isn't sponsored in any way, but for transparency, I will let you know that I got some of the products sent to me for free for review purposes, including this BenQ ideaCam, which I used to film a lot of the painting footage later in the video. This is a tale of the Warhammer world, of warlords and bandits, of sellswords and freebooters, and of brave adventurers who risk it all upon the battlefield for a chance to win measureless riches. They are the Dogs of War. A quick trip into the local Games Workshop got me this army book, the latest issue of White Dwarf, and a slapdash of box sets of units. I can't say now that I remember exactly when and where I bought each unit, but a feverish year of buying and half painting followed, leaving me with a ragtag bunch of nearly finished, half painted, barely undercoated or still in box models. And then, almost as soon as the fever had started, it died down. There was no sequel to Dark Omen to maintain my interest in the army, and the much cooler, to my 17-year-old mind, Dark Eldar and 40k caught my attention. The Dogs of War ended up consigned to a bits bin for nearly 25 years. The model that brought me back was this guy, a Sarnil the Dragon Lord on Deathfang, or Rory to his friends. I'd always had him lying around, half finished, and one day I saw him painted up in this scheme on Facebook, and I finally had the time, tools, manual dexterity and patience to do him justice. Little did I know it would be the start of the whole Hammer the Backlog journey. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I use a productivity system to keep myself on track, painting 5 human-sized models or equivalent each week. Using this method, over the following few months, I knew I'd be able to clean up my old models, rebuild and replace what was missing, and with little help from some friends, get them all to a standard I was happy with. But first, they needed to be scrubbed back down to bare metal. I've tried many products for this over the years, but nothing beats BioStrip. All of the models, metal and plastic alike, went in for a couple of days and came out spotless. I used the 15 times macro zoom lens on the BenQ ideaCam to see just how well the BioStrip cleaned up this model of Lorenzo, which my other good friend and arch nemesis Emil from Tankwall's Lair had sent me. Bear in mind that this camera is picking up details smaller than I can see with my naked eye, and my up-close eyesight has been described by professionals as preternaturally good. Not medical professionals, but professionals in other fields. So, it's a pretty good zoom. I also used the BenQ ideaCam in document camera mode to record a little in progress of how I do my painting. I'm 100% a convert to Citadel's new contrast paints, and I use them fairly extensively, although you probably wouldn't call the way I use them the contrast method. I use a Winsor & Newton Series 7 size 1 brush for almost all of my painting. The only things I don't use it for are bases or large flat areas. If you look after it, keep it clean and make sure it has a good fine point on it, you can use the same brush for base coating as you do for detail painting. I go through about one of these a year. I started with the base. From a Wraithbone or Corax white base coat, I painted them with Lauren Forest, just slapped on. I can tidy the models up later. 2 coats give some nice coverage. Then I focused on the main colour for the model. In this case, Retributor Armour for the brass. Again, 2 light coats are better than 1 thick coat. For the shade on my armoured models, I sometimes use a contrast flesh colour, watered down with contrast medium. But the real secret weapon is the long since out of production Reikland Flesh Shade Gloss. I would only use this on metal surfaces or metallic surfaces where you want to keep a sheen. The next step is a fine recessed shade with Wildwood into the deepest recesses between the panel lines. The BenQ Inspire software has a really handy focus button that I can just tap on the software to make sure that the model where I'm holding it pulls into focus. Once the shade has dried, a quick highlight of Stormhost Silver on all the raised edges and the rank and file metals were done. Then all of the non-metallic parts got a tidy up with Corax White, sufficiently watered down. For the leather, I used a single coat of Wildwood, followed by a highlight of Kislev Flesh. On models with bigger leathery areas, I'll do a few more transitions, but for small areas like this, it's okay to go straight to the final highlight. The black details on the scabbard got a coat of Black Templar. I also use Black Templar on the banner pole, as it gives it a much less stark finish than pure black, which I like. I highlighted the black with Thunderhawk Blue and then an edge highlight of Fenrisian Grey. Next I painted the light wood colours, like the back of the vis. They got my go-to easy light wood colour recipe, a couple of thin coats of Carrick Stone, a belt of Agrax Earthshade, and then a highlight with Carrick Stone again. Done. I finished painting the base before I glued everything together on this specific model, since it would be awkward to reach around the shield otherwise. The fine sand got a dry brush of Ogren Camo. Then I stuck the shield on and freehanded the very simple design with my nice sharp brush. I gave the shield a coat of Flesh Terror's Red before blocking back in the white areas with Corax White. Then the shield got my usual red highlights: Evil Sun Scarlet, my favourite paint, Wild Rider Red, and a dot highlight with Fire Dragon Bright. For my greens I used a base coat of Dark Angels Green. Then I lightened it up with a coat of Warp Lightning. This is then highlighted with Warpstone Glow, my favourite green, and an edge highlight with Moot Green. Finally, the white was shaded with Skeleton Horde before being highlighted with Ushabti Bone and a final edge highlight of Wraithbone. Finally, the base was tidied up and the last of my childhood Dogs of War army was finished. This was my first ever attempt at painting live on camera, so I had a lot to learn about holding the model so the camera could see and making sure there was plenty of light. It was made a lot easier by the BenQ camera's features like the document mode and the focus button on the Inspire software. As I said, this video isn't sponsored by any of these products that I've mentioned, but if you're interested in taking a look in the description, there are links to buy them, and apparently I get some sort of kickback from Lord Bezos. But I'll believe that when I see it. The most fun part of this project has been getting to put these long neglected models on the table, cracking out my old army books and magazines, and finally having the dream army that 16-year-old Mick thought it would take him a weekend to put together. Well, that's all from me. I'll be moving on to other projects now, including those now retro Dark Eldar models in a drawer somewhere around here. It's such a nice feeling knowing that I've painted every single Dogs of War model that I own, and I can finally, satisfyingly close the book on this chapter of my painting journey. God damn it, Emil! If you've enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and liking the video. If you're watching this on premiere day, then this time next week will be the quarterly review video of quarter 1 of year 3 of the Hammer the Backlog project, which will have even more of these models. Thanks for watching this though, you're the best eggs.